The EU Constitution is a bit like one of those zombies from Shaun of the Dead. You can stab it, you can shoot it, but it's never really dead unless you can manage to actually blast its head off. The saga of the Lisbon Constitution might even be as funny as Shaun of the Dead if it was all happening in another part of the world, but as it's one of the most significant documents in shaping Britain's political future, I'm not really laughing. Defenders of the Constitution/treaty argue that it will create a more streamlined EU, but I don't know how many of them actually read it. Certainly the Europe Minister Caroline Flint hasn't. She has, in her own words, been briefed on some of it, which doesn't inspire me to believe that she's really taken too much care to ensure that it's a good idea for Britain. I'm pretty confident that the current government would support this treaty no matter what it says in order to prove how much they support the European idea to their foreign counterparts. The content of the treaty isn't really that astonishing. Most is merely the logical conclusion of the game the EU has been playing for several years now. But what's absolutely shocking is the contempt which politicians all over Europe have shown for the opinions of the public over the whole issue. When the first constitution was written and put to the ratification process, 9 countries agreed to hold referenda on whether they would ratify the treaty. Spain, Luxembourg, France, the Netherlands, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Ireland, Poland, Portugal, and of course the UK. Of these countries, Spain and Luxembourg's voters approved it, while the French and Dutch rejected it. And due to the treaty needing ratification from every country in order to come into force, the remaining countries never bothered to hold their referenda, as the constitution was, theoretically, already dead. The French and Dutch rejections were of course a major blow to the constitution, but like all good zombies it rose from the grave just with a slightly different name and 1 or 2 minor items removed, and this time the Europhiles were pretty careful not to make the same mistakes again, with only Ireland bothering to consult its electorate. The Dutch and French governments should hang their heads in shame. Their citizens democratically rejected the treaty, only to have it stuffed down their throats by their own elected representatives. What type of democracy is it when the citizens are given a simple choice of yes or no, but where yes means yes and no means yes as well? What kind of democracy is it in Ireland when yes means yes and no means keep voting until the government gets the result it wants? Are the UK government any better than the Irish, French or Dutch? At the 2005 general election, the Labour, Conservatives and Liberal Democrat MPs were all elected with manifestos promising not to approve the Constitution without a referendum. Yet when MPs voted in the Commons on the 11th of March 2008, 346 of them voted in favour. Labour were whipped to support it by their glorious leader Gordon Brown, and the Liberal Democrats grasped together all their courage and abstained. Seriously, they may as well have gone shopping. The Irish have to have a referendum because it says so in their constitution, but why is it that every single one of the other 8 countries that promised or even held a referendum the first time round decided against the idea this time? Am I really that paranoid to suspect that the decisions were made collectively behind closed doors? I dare say I'm not. David Cameron has promised that if he becomes Prime Minister before the Lisbon Constitution comes into force, he will give us the referendum that the Conservatives, Labour and the Liberal Democrats all promised. And if that referendum comes, which actually looks fairly likely at present, how should we vote? Well, I will be spoiling my ballot, because history ought tell us that as an EU referendum it's never as simple as it sounds. In a referendum, the people should know what they're voting for or what they're voting against. French and Dutch voters thought they had a choice of constitution or no constitution, but it turned out that their choice was between constitution and constitution. Irish voters thought they also had a choice of constitution or no constitution, but it turned out that their choice was constitution or second referendum. What will the British choice really be if we have a referendum next year? Will it be yes or no? Will it be yes or yes? Yes or vote again? Yes or expulsion from the EU? We just don't know. And I won't vote in an election if I don't know what I'm voting for. Practio, o recipienses, sesenda est.